I always believed family was forever. Those were the words I grew up hearing. The words my mother, well, the woman I thought was my mother, used to whisper every night before bed. My name is Hannah Parker. I'm 24 years old, born and raised in a quiet American town called Fairfield, Ohio. The kind of place where everyone knows each other's names and where secrets, no matter how dark, eventually find their way to the surface. For most of my life, I believed I was just an ordinary girl. 2 loving parents, a modest home, Sunday barbecues, and high school football games under the lights. It all felt perfect. But perfect things, I would learn, can be perfectly fake. It started on an evening in late autumn. The air smelled of rain and burning wood. I was cleaning out the attic, something my mom had asked me to do before I moved to college. That's when I found it. A small, dusty box tucked behind an old suitcase. Inside were documents, hospital forms, a birth certificate, and a letter with my name on it, written in a handwriting I didn't recognize. I opened the letter. It began, "My dear Hannah, if you are reading this, it means you are old enough to know the truth." My hands trembled as I read on. The letter spoke of a young woman, my real mother, who was only 16 when she gave birth to me. It said she was forced to give me up, and that the people I called mom and dad had adopted me under circumstances that were not entirely legal. For a long moment, I just stood there, frozen. My heart pounded so hard I could hear it echoing in my ears. The letter ended with one chilling line. "They didn't just take you in, Hannah. They took you away." I confronted my parents that night. My father tried to calm me down, but I could see it in his eyes. The truth was already there. "We wanted to protect you," my mom cried. "You don't understand what she was like. Your real mother wasn't stable." I wanted to believe her, but the tone of fear in her voice, it wasn't fear of losing me, it was fear of being exposed. I left that night. No plan, no direction, just a car, a half tank of gas, and a single mission: find the woman who gave me life. Days turned into weeks. I searched through adoption records, hospital archives, and state databases. Everything was either sealed, restricted, or missing. It felt like someone had erased me from the system itself. Then I met Detective Laura Jensen, a retired private investigator who specialized in adoption fraud cases. She listened carefully as I told her everything. When I mentioned the name on the letter, Rebecca Lane, her expression changed. She said, "That name is familiar. I worked a case 20 years ago. A baby stolen from a young woman named Rebecca Lane." The case went cold. My entire body went numb. Could that baby have been me? Over the next few days, Laura helped me trace hospital files, witness statements, and old police notes. What we found was terrifying. The woman who gave birth to me had checked into Riverside County Hospital in 2001, but her baby, me, was reported as stillborn. No one ever questioned it. Except one nurse, a nurse who went missing 2 weeks later. The deeper we dug, the darker it became. Fake death certificates, altered medical logs, and connections between the hospital director and a private adoption agency that was later shut down for child trafficking. Every file, every signature pointed to one conclusion: my adoption was a cover-up. As I sat in Laura's office, staring at a photo of the hospital director shaking hands with my father, something inside me broke. My whole life, the bedtime stories, the hugs, the birthday candles, suddenly felt like scenes in someone else's movie. "I need to find her," I whispered. "Rebecca Lane. I need to know if she's still alive." Laura nodded. Then that's where we start. We began with property records, tracing Rebecca's last known address. She had lived in a small town in Montana before disappearing. There were no criminal records, no recent social media activity, nothing. Just silence. But silence, Laura reminded me, often hides the loudest truths. And as we hit the road, the cold wind brushing against the windows, I couldn't help but think of the woman who might still be out there, somewhere, believing her child had died 24 years ago. I didn't know what awaited me at the end of this road: truth, pain, or redemption. But one thing was certain. I wasn't the same Hannah Parker anymore. I was a woman reborn, ready to uncover the story of my own stolen life. The road to Montana felt endless. Miles of open fields, rusted barns, and highways that stretched like veins across forgotten land. Laura and I barely spoke. There was nothing left to say, just a quiet understanding that the truth was waiting somewhere ahead. We arrived in Helena, a small town surrounded by snow-capped hills. Laura had arranged to meet a woman named Martha Collins, a retired nurse who once worked at Riverside County Hospital, the same hospital where I was born. Martha greeted us at her doorstep, her wrinkled hands trembling slightly as she invited us inside. The smell of coffee filled the air. Her living room was filled with old photo frames and faded memories. When I told her my name, she froze. "Hannah Parker?" she whispered, her eyes wide. "You look just like her." "Like who?" I asked. She reached for an old box and pulled out a photograph. In it, a young woman stood in a hospital gown holding a newborn baby wrapped in a white blanket. "That's Rebecca," she said softly. "That's your mother." My breath caught in my throat. There she was, my real mother. Her eyes were the same shade of green as mine, her smile warm yet fragile. But what broke me most was the look of hope on her face. She had no idea that photo would be the last time she saw her child. "What happened to her?" I asked, my voice trembling. She sighed deeply. Rebecca was just a kid. She had no family support. When she gave birth, the doctor told her the baby didn't make it. She screamed, cried, begged to see the body, but they never let her. A week later, she disappeared. Rumor was she went looking for answers, and that's when people started to get hurt. "People?" Laura asked, leaning forward. "The nurse who helped Rebecca file a complaint, she was found dead in a motel room. The doctor who signed the death certificate moved out of state and changed his name. Everyone who tried to speak up vanished." I felt a chill crawl up my spine. This wasn't just adoption fraud anymore. It was something much bigger, something dangerous. Before we left, Martha handed me the photograph. "Keep it," she said. "You deserve to know who you are." As we drove away, I stared at the photograph under the dim light of the dashboard. For the first time, I didn't feel like Hannah Parker. I felt like Hannah Lane, the daughter who was stolen. Back at the motel, Laura spread a map across the table. "If Rebecca's still alive," she said, "someone out there knows where she went." She marked several towns where Rebecca had reportedly been seen years ago: Billings, Butte, and Great Falls. One name appeared more than once in those reports: Dr. Samuel Trent. He was the doctor who delivered me. We found out he now owns a private fertility clinic in Denver, Colorado. She warned me, if we go there, we're stepping into dangerous territory. This man built his life on other people's pain. I nodded slowly. Then it's time he faced mine. 2 days later, we arrived in Denver. The clinic stood like a fortress of glass and steel, modern, spotless, and sterile. But beneath its polished surface, I could feel the rot of buried secrets. Laura managed to secure a brief meeting under the pretense of a fertility consultation. I sat across from Dr. Trent, mid-60s, silver hair, calm smile that didn't reach his eyes. "So, Miss Parker," he began, flipping through my fake medical file. "What brings you here?" I watched him carefully. "I'm looking for answers about my birth." He froze for a fraction of a second, barely noticeable, but I saw it. His hand trembled as he turned a page. "I'm afraid I don't handle adoptions," he said curtly. "You did once," I replied, sliding the photograph across the desk. "Recognize her?" His smile vanished. He looked at the photo, then at me. His eyes darkened. "You shouldn't have come here." "Why? Because I'm the baby you declared dead?" He stood up abruptly, his voice low and cold. "You have no idea what you're getting into. There are people, powerful people, who would destroy everything to keep that past buried. Then maybe it's time someone dug it up." He pressed a button on his desk. Two men appeared almost instantly. Security. But before they could reach me, Laura stepped in, flashing her old investigator badge. "Touch her, and you'll regret it," she warned. Dr. Trent's face twisted into something between fear and fury. "You think you can expose me? The records are gone. The people are gone. You have nothing." "Maybe," I said quietly, "but I have her." I held up the photograph. "And that's enough to start." We left before security could follow. My heart raced as we reached the car. "We got him rattled," Laura said. "That means we're close." That night, while reviewing public documents online, we found something unexpected. A lawsuit filed 15 years ago by Rebecca Lane against Riverside County Hospital and Dr. Samuel Trent. The case had been dismissed due to lack of evidence. But in the archived documents was a name of a witness who never showed up in court: Michael Parker, my father. Everything went silent. My throat tightened, my eyes burned, and the truth hit me like a train. My adoptive father wasn't just involved, he was part of it. He testified against Rebecca and helped bury the case. I felt a storm of anger rise inside me. They took my life, and when she fought back, they destroyed hers. Laura placed a hand on my shoulder. "You know what this means, right? If we go after him, you might lose everything." "I already did," I whispered. "Now I want justice." As I stared out the motel window that night, watching the Denver skyline fade into darkness, I made a silent promise. To Rebecca Lane, to the girl she lost, and to myself. They took my identity. Now I'll take back the truth. And this time, no one would stop me. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw my father's face, calm, proud, and full of lies. The man who taught me right from wrong had built his life on a crime that stole mine. By dawn, I'd made up my mind. If he was part of this, he would have to answer for it. But before I faced him, I needed to find her, Rebecca Lane, the woman who'd lived with the pain of losing a child for 24 years. Laura tracked a new lead through Social Security databases, a woman in her 40s using the name Rachel L. Monroe in Bozeman, Montana. The initials matched, the age matched, and something deep inside me whispered it had to be her. The drive took 8 hours. Endless planes rolled by, the sky painted in cold blue silence. When we finally reached Bozeman, Laura parked outside a small animal rescue center on the edge of town. A faded sign read, "Second Chance Sanctuary." Inside, the air smelled of hay and hope.
Volunteers moved quietly, tending to injured dogs and stray cats. At the far end of the barn stood a woman in worn jeans, her auburn hair streaked with silver. She turned as we approached, her eyes a piercing green that stopped my heart. Rebecca.